welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all having an amazing day. So today I'm going to be reviewing the book Beyond Tragedy, A Story of Shanann Watts by Vonda Knox. Now, Vonda is the mother to Nate. Now, if Nate rings a bell, then I'm sure you all know who he is. He was, at the time the murders happened, Shanann and Chris Watts' neighbor. And also Vonda, she also lived with Nate at the time of the murders. Now, since the murders, Nate and his family has moved out, but his mom still occupies the residence. So anyone interested in reading the book or purchasing the book, you can get it on Amazon Kindle, and it would be $4.99, or you can do the 30-day free trial period. I'll have the link in the description box for you, or I already have it linked on my community page. Now, before I get started, I do want to read this. It says, "All rights reserved. No part of this book may be used or reproduced in any form without permission, except by a reviewer who may quote brief passages in a review." And that's exactly what I'm going to be doing today. And I do want to just say thank you to Vonda for putting that in the book, because not a lot of authors allow that, or at least put it in the book. There's also a publisher's note, and it says, "Information in this book has been transcribed or paraphrased from CBI Discovery documents, audio video interviews released March 2019, Frederick Police Department, CBI, and the FBI media interviews, Facebook posts, and eyewitness accounts regarding the investigation of Christopher Watts and the events leading up to the murders of Shanann, Bella, Cece, and Nico." She also gives a dedication, and it says, "To all those who have died violent deaths and now speak from the stars with the voices of angels." Some characters and events in the book were inspired by Chief Black Kettle, Silas So, and events of the Sand Creek Massacre, November 29, 1864. Now, I did go and look up this Sand Creek Massacre just so you guys can better understand one of the characters that she does talk about in the book. So a quick breakdown of it would have been on November 29th, 1864, 675 U.S. volunteer soldiers commanded by Colonel John Cheventon. They attacked a village about 750 Cheyenne and Arapaho Indians along Sand Creek in southeast Colorado Territory. During an 8-hour period, the troops killed around 230 of them, mostly women, children, and the elderly. Now, obviously, there's parts to this book that are fictional, and that is the part that really has me intrigued. Then there's the other part of the book where it talks about, like she said, stuff from the Discovery. It also has a breakdown of certain events on the body cam. Also, when Chris does the polygraph, it's all stuff that she's gotten from the Discovery too. But it is the fictional part for me that has me really interested in this book. Vonda starts off with, she talks about how her typical mornings would start, and she says that she would wash her face, she has a cup of coffee, and then she would go snuggle up and look at her camera. Now, she says for the past 5 months, she would notice that there would be an orb big as a basketball that would go across the camera and past Nate's truck. She said that happened for 5 months straight. Now, Nate and his wife must have been critics, because she says the critics in the house. And she also says that the neighbors were curious about it, and they explored every possible logical explanation for the orbs. They try to see if it may have been flashing lights, drones, maybe it came from the street light, but nothing made sense. She said, given the random direction of the orbs moved, the very times they occurred, and the sheer number of nights they would be observed, they concluded that it would take a pretty determined, perhaps a very bored person to mount such an elaborate ruse, which I agree. So at the end of the day, there's no explanation for why this orb would be there almost every night. Now, when you do a simple Google search of what an orb can be, it says it could be dust or particles that are in the air, but there are also people who believe that orbs are spirits of loved ones. Now, this next part, she does say that for the past 2 years, she frequently felt Shanann and the girls, and that she talks about seeing the girls running around her house in the hallways and seeing them smiling. She said Shanann came to her in her dreams and they had a conversation. Now, she started lighting candles and saying prayer and burning sage throughout the home. And she started having this dream, and it was a dialogue that was coming to her. And she says she has often felt the presence of those who have passed on one level or another. And she does say, is this only in her mind? Who is to say? She does explain that she is sharing her experience and the story that has come to her. So, the story that's come to her in her dreams. And it's our responsibility as the reader. We have the right and the responsibility of formulating our own opinion. So basically, we can believe what she says, or we can just dismiss it. I've always been intrigued with the afterlife, especially when it comes to someone passing from either a violent crime or an unexpected death. And chapter 1 really hooked me in. Said Shanann opened her eyes. She could barely make out the shadowy ceiling, and her bedroom felt colder than usual. Shanann was trembling and afraid to get out of bed. She felt dizzy and her throat was dry. Her craving for a drink of water was urgent and all-consuming. She had to get up. Her throat was burning. She overcame her fear and cautiously crept from the bed. The room seemed hazy and oddly silent as she made her way into the bathroom. The light was dim, and it took her a minute to focus well enough to see herself in the mirror. She was shocked at her image. Her eyes were completely bloodshot, and there was a small dark bruise on the right side of her neck. Suddenly, a memory came crushing in with a vengeance. Now, the image was of Chris being on top of Shanann, and that she wasn't able to move, that she was telling Chris, "You're gonna hurt the baby, get your hands off my neck." And then she talks about how Shanann felt so weak and questioning, why is this happening? You won't do this, you can't do this. And that Shanann was searching to breathe, and she couldn't breathe, and she was saying, "Get off of me so I can breathe." It says that Chris was so aggressive, and she felt that something horrible had happened, but she couldn't remember exactly what happened. Instantly, Shanann thought of Bella and Cece. Where were the girls? So she started looking everywhere for them. She went in their bedrooms. She went in the bathroom. She ran downstairs, and while she was running downstairs, she tripped and fell. She looked outside and noticed Chris's truck was gone, and she was really confused. Why would Chris take the girls? She went in the garage thinking maybe they were hiding from her in there. Shanann ended up being outside looking for the girls. She was at the neighbors. She was calling for Bella and Cece. And then all of a sudden she heard someone calling her name, and it was coming from inside the house. She went inside, and standing inside the kitchen was her grandmother. And she said that the room smelled like flowers. The grandmother was holding a baby, and it was Nico. Shanann held him for the very first time, and she felt overwhelmed with joy and excitement as she laid eyes on her son. She said, "Oh my God, he looks just like Frankie." A small little voice said, "Can I see the baby, Mommy?" It was Cece reaching for her baby brother. The grandmother said, "We can go now." Now, Shanann was happy to see Cece, but where was Bella at? So she knew she couldn't go on with them to the light. She had to stay behind to find Bella. Soon after the grandmother, Nico, and Cece left, the room became chilly and everything became a fog again. Shanann was having a hard time remembering what happened, and little bits of pieces of it was coming to her, but they weren't all in the correct order. Now, most of this story, Shanann is searching and searching for Bella. She can't seem to find her anywhere in the house, and it's such a sadness that has come over Shanann, and the fear she has because she doesn't know where her daughter is at, and she is just so worried that she's out there alone. It says that Shanann needs to find her daughter. "I don't know how to do this," she said. She thought about calling her friends, but she couldn't remember their numbers. Where is my phone? Now, Shanann goes outside and she's standing on the porch. Was this her home? Now, while Shanann was on the porch, she noticed a man standing on the lawn. He had a dark braid. It was centered in the middle of his back, and a small circle of smoke dancing around his head. Shanann knew he was aware of her presence, but he continued directing the smoke and chanting something quietly. She could hear him, but she couldn't understand what he was saying. Now, Shanann asked him, has he seen her daughter Bella? Then the man smiled and said yes, that he used to see Bella when he was a small boy, and that Bella sensed the presence of him when no one else could. That's when Shanann said that her mom is the same way and that her faith is strong. Then the man introduced himself, and his name was Speak with the Stars. Then Shanann goes back inside, her continuing looking for Bella, and that's pretty much where chapter 1 ends. And I don't know about you guys, but when I first read that chapter, I kept getting the chills because I myself believe in the afterlife, and I know some of you don't believe that, and you probably already have stopped listening. You might be a little upset by this, but for myself, like I said, I do believe in the afterlife, and I do wonder what happens to somebody when they are, murdered or their life was taken very violently. I wonder what happens to their soul at that moment. And so for me, reading this, I just kept imagining, is this what possibly could have happened? Again, I don't want anyone taking that the wrong way, and I hope I don't upset anybody, by what I'm saying, but that's what happened when I was reading. That's how I felt, you guys. I just kept getting the chills. Now, as for chapter 2 is going to be basically the same thing that we've seen in the body cam video when Coonrod first arrives on the scene and Nicole Atkinson and her son are there. It goes into all the details of all of that, and when Chris gets home and they're searching the home, how they go to Nate's house, look at the camera. They go into everything that we've already known, but the only thing that I thought was interesting and I want to share with you guys is she goes into more details of what Nate went through afterwards. Now, I know some people like to make fun of Nate and say that he is nosy, but I feel like as neighbors, we're all a little bit nosy, let's be real. And if you've seen a cop car pulled up at your neighbor's house and you've seen them looking for them in the backyard, or you've heard them calling your neighbor's name, I mean, I know for myself, I would be outside like, hey, what is going on? Is everything okay? I mean, something like that just doesn't happen where I live, and it seems like possibly that's not something that happens all the time where they live. So Nate going outside and asking questions, I don't see anything wrong with that. And I honestly think it's so silly that people are trying to make Nate's actions into something more sinister when all he was doing was being a concerned neighbor. Now, she goes on to talk about when Baumhover and Coonrod left the scene that day, how throughout that day, Nate kept looking at that video of Chris backing up into the driveway. And throughout the day, he was also in frequent contact with Sandy and Frank, who is Shanann Watts' parents, and that he could hear it in their voice that they were so concerned and frustrated. One being that they couldn't be in Colorado because they were in North Carolina at that moment. Then she goes on to talk about what we've seen on that video of Chris backing up his truck and how he kept walking back and forth, how he put something in the back seat, and how he put the gas can in the back of the truck. She also says that Nate kept questioning himself, wondering what did he miss, what wasn't he seeing. And I feel like that's how a lot of us feel. I know I do, and that's why I watch these body cam videos so much. I listen to these interviews so much because I feel like, what am I not seeing? What am I missing here? Like I said earlier, Nate kept watching that video over and over because he said that he kept thinking like there is something there. There has to be something that I'm just not seeing. He even thought that maybe someone slipped in through the garage when Chris left to work and had gotten inside with Shanann and the girls. He also thought, because Chris kept bringing up that they had issues with the garage door indicator, that he was thinking maybe somebody removed them. But then he thought that is impossible because his camera would have captured someone going inside or someone messing with the garage door. And like everyone that knew Chris and Shanann, Nate was having a hard time imagining Chris hurting his family. He said that even though he was not close to Chris, he did see him outside playing with the girls, or he'll see him mowing the lawn, and he just seen Chris as a regular guy, and he just couldn't imagine him actually doing something to Shanann and the girls. He also says that he didn't see Shanann much, and that Sandy had told him that Shanann worked a lot and she was very busy. Also, something I thought was interesting because I didn't know this. She says that when Nate and his family moved in the house, that Sandy and Frank were living with Chris and Shanann at that time. That Nate met Sandy soon after he moved in, and that they would have these conversations when each of them were on their back patios. Now, some of the things they would discuss would just be the kids. Nate had dogs. We know Sandy took her dogs to Colorado, and weather and stuff like that. She does go on to say night on August 13th that before Nate went to bed, he went and he grabbed his gun from the safe and he loaded it and he put it underneath his bed. And he could not sleep at all that night, that he kept getting up. Him and his wife kept getting up and checking on their 6-year-old son. And they were so worried for Shanann and the girls' safety. And not only that, but they were worried about their own safety because they didn't know if there was a predator on the loose. They didn't know if Chris himself had done something. So they were just concerned overall for everybody. And that pretty much is where chapter 2 ends. And that's where I'm going to end this video. There's a total of 12 chapters. And based off of what you guys think on this video, if you guys liked it, enjoyed it, if you want me to do more, please comment below and let me know. I personally have read the whole book and I enjoyed it 100%. Again, I really want to know what you guys think. What do you guys think so far of the book? Or if you read it already, let me know what you guys think of it when you were done reading it. Also, I know in the Facebook groups, you know, there's like mixed opinions on it. Some people enjoyed it. Others think it was just a way for her to make money off of. But again, I personally enjoyed the book because she does give us some insight of what happened after the fact when everybody left Nate's house that day. And with that being said, I'm gonna wrap up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, if you did, please take the time to hit that like button and share it. It is a free way to show your love for the channel and me. And as always, I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.